A visual popped into my head when I was kind of thinking about this of a drone flying over an empty field of a whole bunch of desks, and then kids reading.
Vibe 105, number one for hip hop, R&B, and the culture. My name is Mastermind, and today we are discovering Roger Mooking, world-renowned chef and restaurateur, Food Network, cooking channel host and personality, and just all around, and musician, I shouldn't forget that, but all around good guy, my brethren from a long time. Roger Mooking, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
All right, so there's lots to cover. I mean, you're such a busy dude. It's no wonder that stereotype about Caribbean dudes having 10 jobs and stuff, but it's like you make that real, and you kill it like all the time. So we could talk about, Twist by Roger Mooking at the airport. We could talk about your other restaurants. We could talk about the numerous shows that you have on both the Cooking Channel and Food Network. But I think today we want to talk about something that's very near and dear to you, a special art installation that launched here in Toronto. That's called Readin. Why don't you tell me about that a little bit?
So Readin, we're living up in here in Canada, and we're in such close proximity to our neighbors in the South in America. And I have a lot of friends and family in America, so my heart is near and dear. And America's been good to me over the years. Right. So but a lot of crazy stuff's been happening in America lately. For a while, obviously, but also lately, they started banning these books that are educational books that are supportive to marginalized communities of all sorts. And this is not a new playbook. This is like Hitler was burning books. This is a strategy employed by authoritarianism to kind of control and mobilize power, right? And keep the masses not educated, right? So that's a bad thing. They're taking kids who come into school with braids and saying they can't come to school with braids anymore. Right. So, it's very pointed and focused. Absolutely. And they're using kind of very sneaky sideways ways of coming after racialized and marginalized communities,
indeed,
right?
Indeed.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I kind of want to stand in solidarity with it. And I'm on social media, but I find social media is such a jilted, stilted format to present big ideas. Okay. So I thought this idea was too big and I need a better platform. So we created this installation with the city of Toronto and the Raptors, and just putting these desks to support the book banning. So we have kids coming out, 30 desks coming out in Fort York, 20 other desks in pairs are going around to 10 historic museums around the city. Okay. We're placing these banned books and what they're about with bookmarks in them so people can read it. But on opening day, what we did was we had a bunch of students from the TDSB come out in a procession, sit down and read the books out loud, like a chorus of these banned books, right? And taking back the power with the kids. And then there's a bunch of programming around it with some of the other organizations that are supporting it. And it's an amazing event, and those desks gonna live throughout August for Emancipation Month.
Right, and where is it located?
The majority of the desks, 30 of the desks, gonna be in Fort York.
Okay.
And then the other 10 historic museum sites around town, like Spadina House, all these places, are gonna have pairs of desks matching it and plaques explaining how it connects to the desks at Fort York. So it's a citywide installation, actually.
Okay, and how long does it run for?
1 month.
Okay, so from beginning of August all the way to the end of August.
Yeah, and on the weekends, we have different teams programming events over the weekends, different things.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me some of the behind the scenes that went into pulling something so enormous off and actually making it as amazing as it is right now.
Well, it started with the idea. I was just disgusted. I'm watching everybody just do their social media thing, and then 2 days later they stop, right? Right? So I was just kind of so frustrated with that cycle. And I'm like, there has to be a better way to kind of to present these bigger ideas. So I found my way into some people at the city of Toronto. We called them up and said, look, we have this idea. Will you support this idea? And really, it was just a visual popped into my head when I was kind of thinking about this of a drone flying over an empty field of a whole bunch of desks, and then kids reading. And so when I explained the concept to the person at the city of Toronto, they're like, oh my gosh, that's an incredible visual. It's an incredible concept. It's so timely. It's so like what we need right now. And to support the community here. So they jumped on it. Next thing you know, we're going, but a lot of logistics. We're lots. It's crazy.
So Readin is what it's called.
Readin, yeah.
Readin. City of Toronto. Fort York is kind of the main place, but obviously in and around different.
The Toronto History Museums around the city. So there's 10 history. Todd Morden down by Everly Green Brickworks is one of those locations. So they'll have a pair of desks there.
Beautiful location.
Beautiful. They're all beautiful locations. Right. All of the history museums supported. So it's been amazing. Yeah. And again, it allows it to be a citywide installation. So you can go to any of these from whatever corner of the city you're at and participate.
People who want to participate and go see these things, they don't need tickets or anything like that. It's just open, right?
Yeah, you just pull up on the Toronto History Museums, look for the pairs of desks, or at the case of Fort York, there's gonna be 30 desks. It's really hard to miss.
Right, okay.
In the middle of the field, you know?
Okay, beautiful.
And Roger, I understand that you've been invited to do a culinary installation for Gordon Sadratch's exhibit at the Spadina House in Toronto called Dismantle. The processional culinary installation features ingredients, recipes, themes, and foodways central to the African diaspora as part of a multi-artist takeover of the Spadina House Museum in Toronto. That's amazing.
Chain in the golden nugget with old gold and Trinidad James. Made it this far, picture big like Pixar, animated like inebriated chicks-saw, animalistic like a mystic in a strip bar, driving you crazy like traffic in a shit car.
Aside from being a world-renowned restaurateur and TV personality chef, he's a musician. Actually, his roots started in music back in when?
The 90s. It was like
early 90s. It's a very storied history. A few Juno Awards in there, lots of touring, lots of good time, lots of music. And you have...
And Mastermind used to be our DJ. Mastermind was our DJ once for a while. Yes, he toured with us.
You have worked hard to afford yourself to have passion projects. And passion project meaning, aside from what your day job is, being a chef and a restaurateur, you've now moved back into the music space, right? What drew you back to that? Because you're about 5 studio projects in. Yeah.
Well, with 5 studio projects, it's arguable to say if I ever left. It's like I just always been putting out music.
Okay.
To varying degrees of kind of like, I guess, people finding out about it, I guess.
Sure.
But yeah, I never really stopped, man. I always was making records, and there's times in the calendar where the food stuff definitely dominated the calendar, or TV stuff dominated the calendar, or design projects that dominated the calendar. But right now, I found this really nice, sweet spot where I can blend art, music, and food, and they all work really symbiotically together. Finally, it's amazing.
And you have a great synergy between the music and what you do for a day job being a chef, where all the projects that you've done as of late have some sort of food correlation with them.
Yeah, the titles.
Right.
Yeah, the first album title is called Soul Food. The next one is called Feedback, and then we did an acoustic version of Feedback.
Right.
And then I did Eat Your Words was the previous one, and then this one now is Edible.
See, everything, all the titles they have. So let's talk about Edibles being the latest project. This is only an EP though.
Yeah,
right? The other projects were albums and stuff, right? So this one's an EP. Talk to me about Edibles.
So Edibles is like, really fun, kaleidoscopic. It has a good energy, like a bounce to it, you know? I miss that era where music had a bounce to it, like that Timbaland bounce, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this record has a lot of bounce. It's drawn from like a lot of influences, like all my records. There's like rock elements in it, there's soul elements in it, just raw dog hip hop elements to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's very musical, it's full of live instrumentations mixed with programming. And really, it's like a record where coming out of, we're still in pandemic, but coming out of the lockdown mode of pandemic, I kind of felt like everybody wanted to just feel good. And so this record, this EP does that.
That's the key, but no box. A chapel in prison with no locks. Why your face screwed up and salty? Egos brittle, they crack like saltines. Had to call your dogs, they Maltese. Couldn't finish the job, they all tease. I'm a bet that got no bugs, I don't bite. Rule numero uno, but y'all don't write. It's funny to me, it's no joke. Sweet like honey to bees, but with no smoke.
As a creative, I always wonder about artists who have deep catalogs and just are constantly creating. How do you come up with new subject matter, new topics, new content, especially when you've kind of narrowed what you're doing now to things like edibles and you know, Eat My Words and so, like, I remember Eat My Words, where, you know, every song had some sort of subject matter about,
Yeah, there's related stuff. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
you know, the
Yeah.
food and whatnot. And so here we are with edibles. And so where does your brain go to come up with the content that you're going to speak about? Like, you think about other artists, and they always, you know, dive into, you know, personal stories or something that's going on in their life. But how does that correlate with you when you're making your project?
Yeah, generally it's coming from personal stories, you know, and I just have a really crazy life, you know. I'm in and out of restaurants and the food and beverage environment, which if you've been around that environment, you know there's just so many characters in the food and beverage and restaurant industry. So there's no shortage of stories to pull from and be around and be in the mix of as well. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So life is just crazy in that realm.
Yeah.
But then I'm also around musicians and artists, and you know that's also crazy.
Very, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a crazy.
How similar are those two
Very
worlds?
similar.
Okay.
They're very debaucherous and very similar.
Okay, all right.
So, you know, I'm just always in an environment of inspired people, creating, kind of living on the edge of everything. And so when you're in that environment, there's just never a shortage of information, like input. You know, like an artist's output is only relative to its input, right? So I'll consume, you know, 100,000 words before I write 4 bars.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the input is so important, and you never know. Like, I might read something from like an astrophysics manual, because I read all kinds of stuff, right? And that might end up in a rhyme, or like the theme of a song, or an idea, or connecting an idea. You know?
When is your creative time? When are you breaking from the monotony of all the other things you're doing to grab your notepad and jot down words and lyrics and ideas?
Yeah, it's a great question, but there's never a moment where I'm like, okay, I do this from 12 to 3, and then I do this from 3 to 5. It's not like that, P. I just get up in the morning, and usually it's a song wakes me up.
Oh.
And I'll write it, I'll voice memo it. The drum go like this, the bass line goes like this, the melody goes like this, da-da-da-da-da. And it's just whatever is happening, you know. Obviously, like, especially now, there's like Zoom calls for this, that, and all these things have phone calls and activation. So, you know, we do the housekeeping things, and then in between, it's like, what's my vibe? I might be driving down the highway on a call. I might pull over, stop the call to do a voice memo for a rhyme.
That's awesome.
I do that all the time. Or a recipe idea will pop into my head. I'll pull over, like, write down the recipe idea, and then keep going. So, like, I'm constantly in this mode of flux and creativity 24/7.
That's dope. So where can people find the album? If they want to, the EP, if they want to check out Edibles or any of your other projects, where can they go to?
Just search Roger Mooking on your streaming platforms, or go to rogermooking.com/music,
All right, perfect.
and it can drive you in.
Edibles, the latest project from Roger Mooking. How many songs are on the EP?
5.
5-song EP.
Fun one, man. It's quick, fast, and fun.
There you go. And if you haven't, you know, discovered Roger Mooking musically before, because maybe you only know Roger from being a chef, that would be quite the discovery for you. And then the rabbit hole is deep.
The rabbit hole is deep.
Super deep. When you get to the Edmonton Maximum, what is it? What was
Maximum
it?
Definitive.
Oh boy. Then you're really in the rabbit hole if you get that. But no, definitely check out Edibles, rogermooking.com/music, and of course Readin, the installation that has been set up with Roger Mooking as well as the Raptors at Fort York and various
Toronto History Museums
Toronto History
around the city.
Museum.
It's a citywide installation for the whole month of August, which is Emancipation Month.
Perfect. So there it is. Once again, thanks to Roger Mooking for joining us here at Vibe 105 with another edition of Discovery. Again, this has been great, man. I always love talking to you.
Thanks, man. Respect you too, though.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.